Okay, I'm here with Murray and Max today, who have both been in the military, and they both formed a relationship that was based on being in the military. So I thought we'd start by talking about that. So who wants to start?
You start.
I had been away for a little while, and Norfolk, the unit that I was with, is a reserve unit, so we don't always know what goes on in the rest of the military. And I went into the brew room, and there was a guy standing there with crown and sergeant stripes, and I'm thinking, what? Don't you know who you are? Because it's sort of like, hang on, one's sergeant and one's a warrant officer. I don't know. So I went to the boss and I said, who the hell? What does he think he is? And he said, no, that's a rank, that's staff sergeant. But anyway, when I was in the brew room, it was like, ooh, you're nice. Lots of giggling. And eventually, after a few months, we sort of started to go out together and enjoy each other's company. And we've been together for 30 odd years. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it's been pretty nice. We enjoyed it. Just to go clubbing and dancing and out for dinners and go with other couples that had met up in the military as well, so that was fun.
Yeah.
That's how we got together.
So did you make the first move, or?
Oh yeah, probably.
Because it did sound like that.
Yeah, I think I looked all doughy-eyed and like,
Use the
batting
eyelashes.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'd served about 21 years in the military, regular, and after I got out, I drove to Darwin, and I ran into a mate of mine up there who had served with me in the SAS regiment, and he encouraged me to do Army Reserve work, and I'd never really given that much thought.
Silly fool.
So I did start doing Army Reserve work, and after a short time really, I met Maxine, and we used to socialise and go to the canteen, which is a military type establishment where
The boozer.
where you go and drink or whatever. And I saw Maxine there, and she was very beautiful, and I was attracted to her. And it wasn't long after that we started going out together, and
Nice.
was a short time, wasn't it, before we started living together? But
Yeah, not that long.
Oh, how long was it?
How long?
Yeah.
Probably a couple of months.
yeah,
Wow, that is quite
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
big.
see, we weren't young either.
Oh, so you were like...
Yeah, I was in my 30s and
I was in the
just turned
40s,
40,
I just
so
turned 40,
we
so,
weren't babies. We were grown-ups, so we sort of probably knew what we wanted.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's lasted 30 odd years. So.
So it wasn't like, oh, yeah, we're both 20.
No.
But
Yeah.
I mean, the military is, people speak the same language, people understand one another quite easily, so it's not uncommon that service personnel, whether it be Army, Navy or Air Force, will meet like-minded people and form a relationship.
Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
That's cute. Yeah. Told you.
Okay. So basically, so what I'm gathering from that is that it's not natural. One of the things that I found interesting is that it's not an uncommon thing for people in the military to end up being together.
No, because you spend your life together. You go out bush, you can be out bush for 10 weeks at a time. Just like I was the only female and I had 100 guys. So that was not not really. But I mean, I've got 3 really, really close girlfriends and myself as well, and we all married guys that we worked with, and we've all had long relationships, so they've all been around the 30-year mark as well. So yeah, you meet people every day, you get to know who they are, you know whether you're going to gel or not, and but I mean there are quite a few relationships that don't last, especially the younger ones that have been to Afghanistan and Iraq. They tend to not have positive relationships, but
that must. Do you think it's just a really harsh environment?
it's horrible from what I've heard. And there's a lot of damaged people that come home, and they think that they're well and they're not, and they make decisions that they shouldn't have, and it's really awful. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit different from Vietnam,
Oh, yeah.
where there was a set period of time that you went there. These guys that are going to Afghanistan and places like that are going for 3 months.
Or
and
8
then
months.
And then they'll come back to Australia and they'll be home for a short period of time.
And then go back again.
And then they'll go back again.
Oh.
So they go
So-
multiple times.
Some people have been 7, 8 times,
Mm.
And
And they get used to the adrenaline of the terror. I mean, that's like, you're frightened all the time. And anyone that says they're not, there's something wrong with them, but they're
Okay.
frightened all the time. And then they come home and they're not. And eventually it's sort of like, I really love that. It sort of, it gets in your blood, and
That's something that I've read a bit online
It's
about
two
people saying
environments.
that when they've been in the military and whatnot, they feel like they're not living the same life
Exactly,
anymore.
and you're not. I mean, we've been out of the military for 20 odd years now, and I miss it. I miss it dreadfully.
And you both miss it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was our way of life. Being a civilian is, people don't understand us. We don't, it's just awful. It's not the same.
But we tend to socialise with
Military.
like-minded military people.
Yeah, so that's why there's a lot of veterans clubs
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I thought that. I know that's not what we were originally going to. So the main difference between the Vietnam was like one big huge block of service, and then you come back and you'd be back.
Yeah.
But the people going to Afghanistan, it's just like lots of short bursts. Do you
Yeah.
think it's better if they just go there for one solid block, then come back?
I think so, but then I'm old. I'm a dinosaur. What do I know? But as far as your headspace is concerned, probably.
Yeah.
Because the more times you go, if you come home, the next time might not be so lucky. So that's in the back of your mind always as well. Like, I've dodged the bullet the last 4 times. Am I going to dodge it this time? So I don't know. Having not been there myself, I can only go by what other people have told me. And
Okay.
I would have loved to have gone. I would love to have gone, just to prove my mettle. But someone has to stay home and be reasonably sane to look after those that come back.
Okay. Let's go back to the relationship sort of thing, because. So, is there anything that you two would want to say that you feel is different to? Have you dated people that weren't in the military?
We've both been married before, so yeah.
So what was that like in comparison? Like having the regular relationship and then having the military relationship.
All mine were military. Been married 3 times, and they were all service type people. So.
What about you, Murray? Were you married to someone who wasn't in the military?
Yeah, I was married to somebody that wasn't in the military. I was from a small country town in Western Australia, and I met one of the girls. Well, I met this girl in the local township, the major township, and like most young guys at that stage, married. Too young. I married too young. I wasn't even 21.
Wow.
And a couple of kids came along fairly quickly, and then Vietnam came along before that. But yeah, so after that, I don't know. I concentrated more on my military career, I suppose, than looking at women that were outside the military.
Okay.
So when I got to Darwin and started working up there, I met Maxine, and life sort of began from there for both of us.
Okay.
It was very difficult for me because I went from a regular soldier to a reserve soldier, and not that I minded it, but I had this mindset that Army Reserve soldiers weren't real soldiers, that regular soldiers were the real soldiers. But my mind changed after a period of time. But these people were doing the Army Reserve work as a second job. They already had a main job, and
But you didn't have that.
no, after I left the military, I didn't have a job for, I didn't have a job. I went into the Army Reserve and did Army Reserve for, 2 years, 3 years. And then after I gave it away, I didn't think I was doing the wrong thing at the time, but forced Maxine to sort of give it away, and then we got on with our civilian side of life after that. So that was different, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Okay, actually, that kind of just made me think of like a question on the fly. It's like, what was the transfer like from going from a military to civilian?
Bereft.
Bereft.
I was bereft.
I don't know the definition of that word.
I was grieving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had been nearly 15 years with the military, and once it's gone, you don't have that. You don't have the structure. You don't have the people. It's all gone, and you flounder to sort of work out who you are and what you do now. And even after 20 odd years of not being in the military, I still feel that way. That's why we sort of hang around military people, I guess, because that's some sort of normality for us.
it's a different lifestyle going from military to civilian life, and you don't realise your worth after you spend a lot of time in the military. That you come out and everything's alien.
Yeah.
There's no support system in place to look after you.
You were well respected in
well
your job
respected,
and
you're
all
looked
that.
after
and
while you're serving.
you come out,
But
you're
then
nothing.
when you come out,
You're nobody.
there's nothing there to sort of support you or find you employment. So I floundered
That's why you
for
find
quite
that
some time.
a lot of the young ones are committing suicide now because they don't have that.
Support.
Structure.
Yeah.
They don't have that structure
Yeah,
and
yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Because you found like, so what did you find to do after the military?
After the military, as I said, I went north to Darwin and worked with North Force up in Darwin. And then we moved from there to Broome, and we both worked with the Army Reserve in Broome for a
It's the
period
same
of
unit.
time.
It's the same unit, but yeah.
And then we went from there to Perth.
Yeah, and then we went to Alice Springs,
And then we went back up to Alice Springs.
and that's where we looked after the
So,
Aboriginal kids.
yeah, I mean, in Darwin, Broome, when we left Broome and went back down to Perth, I found it very difficult sort of adjusting and finding employment. And I eventually, where did I start working when I was in Perth? Rashes, which was
Yeah,
an
something like that,
electrical firm.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I had a job there for a while, and then as I said, we moved to Alice Springs, and I had a job working out the airport for a period of time until we both fell into this job working with Aboriginal children. So we loved it.
Yeah,
We really loved it.
so that was
really
kind
good.
of like, was that the moment that you kind of refound your purpose a bit when you were working with the
Yeah, I
Aboriginal?
guess so.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I was still in the military at that stage.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still working with North Force in Alice Springs at that stage.
Yeah.
So I had the best of both worlds. It was fabulous. And then when we went to Thursday Island, I was still working with 51 FNQR, which is another reservist unit. So I still worked with the military up there and had a ball. So I worked with him and did our thing, and we owned a coffee shop while we were there, coffee shop and art gallery, and I had my military as well. So that was all fabulous. And then he got PTSD and couldn't cope with his job anymore.
Oh,
So
no.
we had to come back.
I didn't have any
Down south.
understanding as to what was.
No, we didn't
happening
understand
to me.
what that was all about at that stage, but we learnt very quickly.
Yeah. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I had no idea what it stood for.
Nobody did.
No.
And then
Was this in the early days of them?
yeah. Well,
Is it a recent thing?
No, it's shell shock. Back in the First World War, it was shell shock or
Okay.
being a coward, all those things. But they did, and they'd kill you for it. They'd shoot you for it. But now they actually have, because they do a lot of things with psychiatrists, and that they're always learning. And now that they have this thing that's post-traumatic stress, and they say syndrome, but it shouldn't be. It really should be. What's the other one? The one that the Americans use, post-traumatic stress. No, we say disorder. They say syndrome. So it's not a disorder. It's just something that happens to you when you can't take anymore.
It's an outcome.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
It's pretty much. Oh, I've hit my maximum amount of.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, with
trauma
everything
can-
that happens to anybody in their life, you might have a car accident, you might have lost somebody, you might have got hit when you were a kid, all that sort of stuff, and your levels build up, and everybody has that. But occasionally, it bubbles over. Like mine is caused by car accidents. I've had two fatal car accidents. I'm not fatal, other people were, and that sort of, to me, that's just knocked me over the. I can't cope with that. So when I'm in a car, I sort of, right, somebody else is driving. And his is military, but I mean, PTSD is PTSD, no matter whether it was military or civilian or whatever. You all suffer the same way and the same thing, but it's now totally recognised. It's a real thing, and once you've got it, that's it.
It's not just the military.
No. People,
Police force,
yeah.
St John's ambulance.
Yeah, first responders.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine people in the
First
like
responders.
First responders, yeah.
they go to the ambulance. And,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
pick
Well,
up
I've
people.
just been on a thing called Trojan's Trek, which is a fabulous thing to do. We go out bush for 5 days with mentors and scientists and stuff like that, and they teach you how to live a better life and maintain yourself without all this drama. It takes a while, but it's also open not just to military, but it's also open to first responders. And we had a lass there, and she was an AMBO officer, and she was a mess. But by the time we finished the course, she was just so much better. So yeah, no, it's any of those people can come and do our stuff.
All right. You have mentioned the Army Reserves a couple of times through the interview, but I thought we'd get more deeper into that right now. So, you'd like to talk more about that, Murray?
Yeah, well, the Army Reserve is as it says, it's a reserve force. So it's not a regular force, although they do sign some people up if they require a particular specialist. Like Maxine was a medic. If they require a medic, she would sign on for an extra period of say 3 months or 6 months full-time service,
Which I did.
which is like being in the regular army sort of thing.
Well, you are. You
Yeah.
sign on to the regular army that period of time.
And Army Reservists, I think the first time it really raised its head was the Second World War, when a lot of reservists were sent to Papua New Guinea, which was a territory of Australia at the time, and that was the reason that they could be sent there, because it was a territory of Australia. Otherwise, they never used to be able to be sent to a war zone or anything like that.
Unless it was on our home ground.
Home
Like-
grounds. Yeah,
Like, because I think we did get invaded in World War II, didn't we? When
Yes, we did. Yeah.
in Northern Territory.
Yeah.
So that's where the
Darwin,
reservists.
Western Australia, Queensland, they've all been, and even in Sydney they had U-boats in the harbour, Japanese U-boats. So yeah, we were touch and go. But the reservists that
But that's when the reservists are like there to.
yeah, the reservists, they, as it said, they are in reserve. So there was no soldiers left because they'd all
They were
gone
all-
overseas.
Yeah.
So the reserves were the ones that sort of stuck around and did the borders and anything else, any of the other things that they do. But these days, reservists will actually go to war. They do go to war. They go to Afghanistan, places like that.
wow.
And
So
they've
Timor,
changed it.
they went to Timor.
they're taught a lot better too.
Oh yeah, it's different.
Weapon handling. I mean, they instead of years ago they used brooms and whatever as weapons, but to do their training, because they couldn't get their hands on real weapons because of the war. But these days they're trained with weapons.
Wow,
So-
that'd be horrible to go. Okay, 1 minute I'm holding a broom, now I'm holding an
Yeah.
actual gun.
Yeah.
I kind of need a little bit
But
more time to familiarise.
back in those days, most people lived in the country anyway.
So they had handled
and
guns before.
yes, so they knew about it. But I mean, when I joined up in the late 80s, and we had proper weapons, and we had hand grenades and all that sort of stuff, which was great. Loved it. But it's reserve units are there just to be in reserve. Although
support
these
of, yeah.
these days people work a lot harder with the reserves. Like I work full time. I work 365 days a year because I could.
And you work 24 hours a day.
Yeah, if you went bush, you were 10 weeks, 24 hours a day, 10 weeks you were out bush. That was it. And you'd come in and have a wash and clean your equipment and stuff, and then you'd go back out again a couple of days later and have another 10 weeks out. It was fabulous. I loved it. But I was seconded to the regulars as well, so I worked with the regs. But it was just a lovely lifestyle, really lovely lifestyle.
Regular soldiers do full-time service, and it's 24/7. You're employed 24/7.
From the time you sign up until the time you leave.
And you do so much exercises out in the scrub where a whole group of people go, like Coltana here in South Australia. you know, the Army Reserves or whatever will go to Coltana and they'll do an exercise, what they call an exercise there. It might be 2 weeks, might be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But they'll go and do a specific exercise, which may be an enemy that they think up a name for an enemy. So you go up there and you've got this enemy against you, and it may be another force from the regulars in Australia that go there and act as the enemy.
And it's in preparation for going overseas.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have like play skirmishes with each other.
But they can get, because you take it pretty seriously, they can get pretty rough.
So
they don't use...
they don't. Okay, yeah, they don't use.
They don't use live ammunition.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're working with when you're practicing exercises, you use blank. They have a blanket adapter that goes onto the weapon, and then they have a special ammunition called blank ammunition, which goes with a bang, but there's no bullet. You know, there's no bullet in it.
Is it okay? So
It'd still kill you.
wait, it can still kill you.
Yeah, if you're too close.
Okay, but do they? So it's like, is it like a fake bullet, or is it like kind of like paintball or something like that?
No, not paintball, but it is.
No, it just makes
but-
a sound.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually hit you or
It's
anything.
made of plastic, and unless you're really
air.
close and you
It's air
shoot it
that
at somebody,
But you do know when you get hit, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But it's not something that you try to do. But then with North Force, we use live rounds in a lot of our stuff, so that they got you to feel what it's like to have live rounds. Because I mean that's pretty scary shit. Although a lot of the boys really, really like it.
most of the live firing is done at target systems, not at other troops.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'll go to the range and it'll be a live, you know, it'll be. You don't use live rounds
Yeah, we did. Excuse me.
against other troops.
Yes, we did.
Did anyone get hit?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's all orchestrated so that you don't do that, but you get the feel of like real rounds, because it's different make-out rounds. It's the real rounds, and it's one of those things. It's fun.
Okay.
It's scary.
It's like I can't jump out here.
No. You do what you're told. Do what you're told, otherwise you're dead meat.
Yeah, but you fire and utilise a variety of weapons. I mean, it's like grenades. They have a special bunker system, and they'll have targets out there, and you're taught how to throw grenades at targets, judging the distance and
Does that take a bit
observing
of
where it
work?
lands,
No.
and then ducking down so that it doesn't hit you. And
Makes
live
it
firing
easy.
exercises on the range are normally done at specific distances. So you'll do 25 metres where you'll get used to the rifle and what they call zero it, and then out to 100 metres, 300, and 300 is normally about the furthest distance that
You can throw a
what they
grenade.
call no, not
This is live.
Shoot.
This is
Oh.
shooting you.
Yeah.
grenades. You know,
However
depends
far
on
you
how
can
strong
throw
you are.
something.
Depends on how strong you are and how far you can throw
What's
it.
the furthest you've ever heard someone throw a grenade?
I don't know. I know the shortest distance. My girlfriend had one. She's a little girl, and she's standing there with hers, and she's just, and then you've got to chuck it, and as you chuck it, you say grenade. So everybody ducks. So she's there, and she says grenade, and it just lopped there. Everybody was gone. It's funny as. Oh dear. It was a lot of fun.
All right. We'll get on to like the final topic that I have planned.
Yep.
North Force. What was it like to be part of that organisation?
Wonderful. Wonderful. It was my first unit. I was 36 when I joined up. No, actually I was 35, and I had my first 15k route march the day I turned 36, and it was brilliant. I love it. It's my first unit, and it's always been the love of me. It's our 40th anniversary this year, so we're all going up for that. And it's special because I worked with Aboriginal people, and I did a lot of training with them, teaching them how to do stuff. And I have to tell you, they were better taught than the white fellas. And it was the family side of things that we have. I'm still in touch with half a dozen of my best girlfriends. We're still all, after all these years, still really close. At the moment we're having a big yak on the Facebook page for all the guys that I ever worked with because of the 40th birthday, and everybody's like, oh, how are you? And we're all sending old photos of each other. And when you belong to something like that, like Murray was in the SAS, and they all stay together, and it's a similar thing with North Force. We stay together. Whereas other units, if you work with someone else, it's sort of like, yeah, I'll work with them for a while, and I'll work with them for a while, but you don't have that closeness because you work together for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, because you're not just working for like a few years together.
You work
in a platoon
for years, and you're all together. Like no matter where you go in the Northern Territory, if you're North Force, you'll find someone that you've worked with or you've had connection with, and then we were on a ship going somewhere one day, and there was one of Murray's mates. We're out in the middle of like Corfu or somewhere, and got off the ship, and there's this guy sitting there. It was one of Murray's mates that he'd worked with, and everywhere we go, we see someone that one of us has worked with or been with, and so that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like a big family.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A lot of the military work on a 3 years in the one position, and then they move to another unit. Whereas,
but in the North Force, that's different.
Yeah,
Places
and
like
SAS, we stay in the same one for as long as we choose to be there.
Yeah, so if you wanted to work there for like 20 years, you'd work there for 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of regular soldiers that work there as well. So,
Do you have people that like work for a really long time, like 50, 60 years?
Well, I don't know about 50 or 60, but there's guys there.
Certainly in the 40 years service.
30. There's people that I started work with back in the late 80s, and they're still serving.
Wow.
So, and not getting out anytime soon. So.
Yeah. So there is a couple of people that would work that length. But
females tend not to. They tend not to work a long time because they get married, they have kids, their priorities change, all that sort of stuff. Or they go to the regs and join the regs. After they've done reserve work, they'll go and join the regulars, and then they stay in forever and ever. So just depends. It's hard to explain really to someone that doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
But normally you find that people that serve for long periods of time serve with one particular force.
More than others.
Yeah.
So it's not often someone's like served in 4 or 5 different regiments. Like
not from special forces, sort of. And North Force is
a special service.
forces.
Yeah, special force.
So
it's a lot of battalions and things like that. I mean, guys will move from one battalion to 2 battalion to.
Okay, but not in special forces.
No.
So that's different. So in a battalion, I could be say if I joined up in the military, I could be like a rifleman.
You could go anywhere.
Then I become like a little bit higher up, and a little bit higher up again.
Yes. Yeah. And as you are promoted, what they tend to do is they move you to a different unit because
nobody will take you seriously that you've
worked
with.
All the people around you are your friends.
Yeah,
so you're not meant to be friendly. As you get promoted, you're meant to have that authority. So they move you to a different unit.
So nobody knows you, and you go in.
Nobody knows you, and you wear the
throw
rank,
your weight
and people
around.
Respect you. So.
But if you do it with your mates, they'll just take the piss out
They
of you.
laugh at you. Yeah.
But in the special service, we get promoted.
That's a different kind of promotion.
Yeah, well, no, it's still the same, but it's just that everybody
still knows each other.
Yeah, and because it's a different way of being trained to regular soldiers, it just works.
It's a ranked system and a seniority within a unit that everybody respects and acknowledges, and you can still be mates.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it comes to the job being done, if you're the corporal or the sergeant, then you're the one that is in control.
That's like when we used to go bush, because he was a staff sergeant and I was a corporal. So he was two ranks higher than me, and we'd go out bush for 10 weeks. And I remember one of the bosses saying, nobody would ever know that you two are engaged and live together. I mean, you are so, what was the word?
Military.
Yeah, military. I mean, you're just so good that you don't show anybody that you're a couple and all that sort of stuff. Because I mean that is frowned upon when you're out bush. So and Mary and I used to laugh. Professional. You're so professional, and we'd laugh because I'd say to him sometimes, "Oh, excuse me, staff, could you carry the water jerry up to the shower point for me, please?" And he'd say, "Yeah," and we'd be gone for like an hour. But we were very professional. We didn't let everybody know that that's what we were doing. It was fun.
No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, when you're back in a base camp area, you don't, they have tents and things that you live in, and it's not male, female. It's
You're all
males
together.
Or it's female.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very rare that they have both sexes together.
Oh, yeah, well, they do now. They do now. They had
Nice.
they used to have female lines, so all the girls lived in one building and the boys lived in another, and we're going to get wet. And now they don't do that. They have it's all mixed. At our lines up in Darwin, someone was just telling me the other day that they are now male and female.
Communal.
Yeah. So all that male and female thing, I think it's gone out the window now. I think it's sort of like
Yeah, I think it's just like the times that we live
yeah.
in.
Everything changes. Yeah, everything. Not always for the good. That's an old lady talking.
All right, I think that's
Is that
pretty
enough
good.
for you?
Yeah, I think that's 31 minutes. That's good.
Yeah,
We'll stop it there.
good timing.